What's going on, gamers? Hopefully everyone's been okay after the price hikes yesterday, right? Yeah, no, it sucks. So there's another topic that popped up here. Per Square just posted. I think I've seen it in other articles too, saying that $1,000 plus consoles could become the norm. Well, when it comes to consoles, I mean, Xbox is out the race. There's PlayStation, Nintendo. Nintendo will never do nothing for 1,000. There's just PlayStation. So $1,000 plus consoles could become the norm. I don't believe that, no, because this that we're going through now is temporary and it's going to fall and crash. PlayStation 6 price touted to touch four figures. And I think this is something that is kind of something that people are going to the extreme of because they're kind of worried about the way this market works. I don't blame them because right now is the reality you have to deal with. But projecting into the future a bit and understanding that this is temporary, and I think by 2027, all this stuff is going to crash down and fall. It's the same thing with the PS5 Pro's price. It's not going to stay there. Same thing with the PlayStation 5. It's like, no, 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 no. They're going to have to drop that stuff down big time before the PS6 launch. So it's definitely a concern that people are having right now. And it's definitely something I wanted to touch on. We got some comments down here. We're going to continue this in a second by JPO saying, no, thank you. I'm done supporting Sony and Microsoft. So no new PlayStation and Xbox for me. I don't even look at the Helix as being a new Xbox, to be honest with you. It's a custom OEM model PC with backwards compatibility feeds from the Xbox generation. It was there before. To me, a console is something that is going to be competing uh, with its own ecosystem. Kind of like the Series X is, right? And it goes on the market to be sold. It has MPDs, like monthly sales, sales from Europe, sales from Japan. It's a console. You know what I mean? It's not going to be having the stuff that the Magnus is having, which is pretty much a PC. Now, the PS6 is going to be a console. Uh, the next Nintendo device is going to be a console. But the Xbox Helix is not a console, it's a PC. So it's the same thing as saying that, the Steam machine is going to be a console. No, it's not. But it's going to have a console like appearance and a console like factor. So basically, what's left is the PS6, and Sony knows this, and they're not threatened by anything. He says, I'm going to stick with Nintendo and Steam Deck and the new Steam machine. At least with them, I know I'll get something good. Interesting, because all the PlayStation exclusives that are not going to be coming there, you're not going to be able to play them. When it comes to Steam Machine, you're basically waiting to hope to. Well, you're not going to be getting PlayStation games anymore. You're not going to be getting Nintendo games. That's why you have Nintendo. You'll be having the entire PC library, which there's nothing wrong with that. But my problem with the Steam Machine is that if you really like this is the mentality I don't get here. If you're really thinking about that, it's like you do realize that that thing is gonna be $800 to like 1,000, right? And it's gonna be weaker than a PS5, and it's gonna be somewhere around in specifications. So it doesn't make any sense to say this when something like the PS6's specifications, or even the Helix setup, you know what I mean, for the price point value versus the Steam machine price point value, it's gonna be a significant difference in technology. So I can understand Nintendo, but I don't know about the Steam machine. You'd just be better off building a PC. It's up to you, though. And he says, no, it isn't. It's going to be significantly cheaper than people think, and this is going to be hilarious in 1 year. Okay, so he kind of has introspection on what I was saying, that you can't reflect the PS5 Pro's price hike and PlayStation 5 on the PS6 launch. That's a totally different thing. This is the end of Sony's generation, and we're in the most insane market manipulation I've ever seen, like ever, historically in gaming. When the PS6 launches, these parameters are going to have to be significantly different. This will not be here. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They have to get that at least at $700. 800 is pushing it. I don't see Sony trying to do that because they have to sell those consoles. PlayStation is a huge part of Sony. Microsoft doesn't have to worry about any of that. When you think about like the Nintendo Switch 2, that is a huge, like that's mainly Nintendo, right? Though we know they're kind of like branching out and doing theme parks, stuff like that, doing movies now. But when it comes to gaming, Nintendo is wholeheartedly, mostly gaming. When it comes to Sony, PlayStation is a massive part of the Sony company. So they can afford for PS6 to fail. This is the whole idea of trying to push that identity more now, where it's like exclusives only on PlayStation, PSSR 2 push, and strengthening the PlayStation brand. They can't afford for that to fail. I'm telling you right now, the PS6 is not going to be $1,000. We're going to see a huge shift by the time the PlayStation 6 launches. And as a matter of fact, what I think is since these prices went up like that, this may indicate that they may push PlayStation 6 to 2028. Sony would actually end up pushing the PS6 to 2028 rather than having to sell it that high and extend the cycle of PS5. And they could drop those prices down again by that time. This to me is all temporary. The problem, like I was saying people before, the difference between Sony and Microsoft when it comes to price hikes is that Microsoft already kind of screwed their brand so bad that the Xbox cannot recover and be a console again. It died. Like they would not be able to sell. Whereas like PlayStation 6, if Sony gets that price right, they will be fine. Though I don't think they're going to even be getting PS5 numbers with it, but they still at least need to sell 60 to 70 million. And if it's going to be at that price, it'll still equal out to the same profit as what they would have did with PlayStation 5. It's like I was telling people before, like if you sold, you know what I mean, a certain price point and your price was like 50% higher, your sales would obviously tank down. But what would end up happening is if you sold the right amount of numbers, you would get the same profit, right? Like if let's say if a game was $70 and it sold 5 million, what would it need to sell at $50 to equal that same value? It's kind of like looking at it that way. Same things, right? So 70 times 5, right? 350 million, right? Okay, so what is that the other way? You see what I mean? Yeah, you just move it to the 7. So you have to sell 7 million. But it's just like that. I think when it comes to the PS6, Sony will also do sales as well. So I don't know if the PS6 was under 100 million. You know what I mean? Like looking at the way like the price is going to be. No, but what would it take to sell for equivalency of the PlayStation 5 selling 100 million? Would they have to sell 70 million consoles? You kind of get what I mean? Looking at the price. So I think now that we're getting to that point, uh, PS6 may not end up hitting 100 million, but it doesn't really need to. Sony just needs to sell what they need to sell. If their prices are going to have to be like $700 or $800 and they never drop the price, I don't know. We'll see. That's going to be something interesting to find out. But I kind of have that feeling that the migration is going to be tougher compared to the migration for PS4, PS5. Wouldn't you guys agree that if you think about consoles back then, this range was never something you wanted to get to. But now with the way technology works, it's totally different. So that's kind of like my take on $1,000 consoles and why I don't think Sony's going to do that because they can't afford to. It doesn't make any sense. Going down a little bit more, Political J says, trust me, they'll sell. People pay this much for iPhones and auto repairs. The money is there, but the argument isn't. Sony shouldn't be selling consoles for over $1,000. I agree. Some won't care, and many will be pushed towards getting a PC. We'll see what happens. He is correct about this. It used to be a point to where I was telling people before, like, phones used to be cheaper back then, but look at how ridiculous they are now, and they still sell insane, right? Same thing with like PC parts and GPUs and RAM. It's the same thing again, where it's like, look at these card differences now. They went up by like $800. It's like, yeah, the PC market is more insane. The cell phone market is insane for sure. And he's right. People pay $1,200 for iPhones every year. This is nothing. If you look at it in that context, I get what you're trying to say, but you don't replace a console every year. Phones are a little bit different, but it could be looked at like that in a certain sense. That's definitely a counterpoint argument I've seen people come up with before. Yeah, fair point. So it just really depends. If you got those loyalists and they don't want to wait, and PlayStation has loyalists, just like Nintendo does, they're gonna go and buy it. So while people are saying that, it's like, nah, man, people be spending that monthly on food, though. Boys gotta eat, right? Food is to me still the biggest problem in the world because you don't have to get an electronic device. You have to eat every single day. I think the biggest problem it always will be food. So, so it's not just because these prices are going up, but it's because of the expenses that people have to worry about monthly and weekly. And then looking at that, yeah, like penny pinching and stuff, it kind of sucks for them. I kind of feel bad for people. So, but I think if you work hard enough, you'll find a way. But it still sucks though. And he says if component prices RAM stay high, next consoles will inevitably be expensive too. The real conversation should be directed at the component manufacturers and suppliers. Console makers don't control the silicon costs they have to work with. True, that's why you want your own personal contract suppliers. We've known about that. So that's been a topic before. So yeah, I want you guys to let me know what you think. Do you agree with what I say? Do you think that Sony is going to try to sell the PS6 or at $1,000, or would they delay it so that they can avoid that into 2028 and sell it at the price that they want to? Just like Valve probably wanted the Steam machine out by now, right? What did they do? It had to delay. It's the same thing. You got to push it back a bit. Hopefully, you can get some deals, uh, and then realize too at the same time that if they don't, they're not going to subsidize. But console manufacturers have always subsidized. Like Sony has done that before. Um, it's been a thing for a while. If you read the court documents in the Activision cases, and knew that even before, that consoles would always sell at a loss, but you'd make it up through accessories and other things. And in today's age, you would make it up a lot with microtransactions and a lot of other things. But yeah, guys, keep gaming no matter what platform you're on. As you know, as usual, bringing you 3 videos a day. Peace out. Hang in there. Yeah, we know. Gaming has just been screwed over completely.